I am back and today is going to be a vlog video and I haven't done one in a while, a long time actually, but today is the 25th of January and it's actually my birthday week. So yesterday was my 34th birthday. Cannot believe how fast that came around. But I have got 5 days off over my birthday, so I'm just living my best life at home. Now I do apologize if you can hear the fan noise in the background. If you're new to this channel, you won't know, but in my office there is no air conditioning or ceiling fan, so I have to use a pedestal fan, and we're in the middle of summer here in Australia and it is hot and humid. You guys have no idea how bad it is right now, but I wanted to get into some books that I've been reading so far this January, and show you some of the things that I got for my birthday and just chat about things. So I'm going to actually start off with the things that I got for my birthday. The first thing I got, and I don't have it with me in this room, it's already set up in the bedroom, so I'll just put a picture up on the screen somewhere and I'll show you that later. But I got a candle warmer, and if you're not sure what a candle warmer is, it is a lantern or a lamp that has a base on it, and you stick the candle on the base, and then the globe in the lantern or the lamp heats the candle up and melts it. So it's a safer way of burning a candle, basically. I've wanted one for years. I've seen them heaps in America, but here in Australia they're not common at all. And I found a company that finally had them here in Australia, and I asked my partner if I could get that for my birthday, and he got it for me, and it's beautiful. It looks like an actual lantern that you carry, and it is copper colored. So I'll put a picture up here somewhere for you to show you that. And then he also got me, because we both collect mugs, and I don't have it with me at the moment, it's downstairs, but again I'll put a picture on the screen here. But it's Hogben Pottery, I believe it's pronounced. It is a British pottery brand, and it's a beautiful pottery mug with a black and white cat on the front of the mug. It's so gorgeous. I love it so much. He also got me this wax seal for like letters and things, which is just so perfect because I wanted one of these for ages. This is what it looks like. I'll show you the inside. I have not used it yet, but that is what it looks like. So there is the wax and then the little seal, and it's got a T on it. You won't be able to see it, but it has a T, and it has these beautiful little flourishes around the T, because if you're new to my channel or you don't realize what my name is, my name is Tegan. So he got me the T for my first name, which I love so much. It is so beautiful. He also got me this, which is a glass dip pen for calligraphy, and I will show you what this looks like. It is this beautiful sort of peachy pink colored glass pen, and it is for calligraphy. That's what it looks like, and it came with a bottle of ink down the bottom in a sepia tone, and this is literally for calligraphy. I do have fountain pens. I have the Visconti Van Gogh fountain pen, which is my favorite. I have a Parker fountain pen. They're the only two fountain pens I have. Nate, my partner, has a few. This is one of his actually. This one is more of a beginner pen. This is I don't know how to pronounce the brand, but it's TWSBI. This one is a clear fountain pen. It's more of a beginner pen. And then he has a bunch of other ones as well. But I've really always wanted to try a dip pen, and I love it. I did test it out last night. I'm not good at it at the moment because I've never used one before, so I'm gonna have to learn how to do this. So I'm going to have to watch some videos on that, but it is so beautiful. And then he also got me, the last gift he got me was is this beautiful calligraphy ink from Manuscript, which is a Great Britain brand, and it's this beautiful let me just shake it up so it looks nice, but this beautiful metallic gold, and this ink is only for dip pens, because I do have a bunch of inks for my fountain pens. Like I have, just as an example, this one is Diamine. It's the candy cane one. I have the Diamine Elf one. I have Van Diemen's Harvest Gold Nugget Pumpkin. I've got 2 Van Gogh inks, and so forth and so forth. And yes, before anyone pulls me up, I know I'm not pronouncing Van Gogh right, but I'm Australian, and our accents butcher the correct pronunciation. I do know how to pronounce it correctly, but I sound like a moron when I do it. So I'm just going with Van Gogh, because not trying to, like, you know, annoy people or anything, but I'm just gonna say it. Australians sound bogan. We just do. It's just, it is what it is, and our accent just butchers everything. So I'm calling it Van Gogh, you guys. But that is what he got me for my birthday. I am so just grateful for everything, because he really thought about the things that I wanted. And this is all stuff I use on a daily basis. Maybe not the wax seal, but I'll use it a lot though. But I do use my fountain pens and my inks and stuff like that on a daily basis. So really, really excited to learn how to use that glass dip pen and work that into my journaling and crafting and stuff like that. He also, I had the day off for my birthday yesterday. He couldn't get time off, unfortunately, but that's okay. We ordered a cake from USA Foods, which is a online American food retailer here in Australia, but it's based in, I think, Victoria. And we didn't want to spend like $40 for an already made cake, because it's just the 2 of us. So he suggested maybe we have a look on USA Foods and see if there's any cakes on there that I like that we can make together. So originally I was going to get a pumpkin spice cake, but it sold out before I was able to get it. So I ended up getting a spice cake. And before anyone like says anything about that one, like, I was so excited for it. I know it probably seems so stupid to Americans, but we don't have spice cakes in Australia. It's not a thing. It doesn't exist here. So I've never had a spice cake before, and the flavors in a spice cake, which is like nutmeg, cinnamon, allspice, all of that sort of stuff, is way up my alley. So we got the spice cake, we got it's the Duncan Hines brand. It was really good. We got the Duncan Hines brand cream cheese frosting as well, which was really good. And then we had pizza capers for dinner. Pizza Capers is a pizza place here in Australia. I don't know if it's anywhere else in the world, but I know it's definitely in Australia. It's a little bit more expensive though. Their pizzas are a little bit more fancier than, say, like Domino's. And I got the New Orleans pizza, which is like one of my favorite pizzas from there. It's like chicken, potato, sour cream, sweet chili sauce, like all of the good stuff, right? So we did that, and we went to the local parklands, and we walked around there because it's one of my favorite things to do. And then I just enjoyed myself. It was just a really good day, and it rained. It stormed last night, which, if you know me, I love a stormy day. Rain is like my perfect weather. Like, that is my weather. I would live in rain all year long if I could. So yesterday was such a perfect day. I really enjoyed myself. So today's Wednesday, like I said. I do have today off as well, because I took my weekends are normally Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I took Tuesday, Wednesday off to have like a long weekend, which was really great. So yeah, so that's what I did for my birthday. I really, really enjoyed myself. It was amazing. But let's get into the books that I have read this year. So I'm going to start off with, let me just bring up, this is my reading journal. It is a A4 dingbats journal, and this is in the brown bear one. I love it. I used the A4 dingbats elephant one last year, loved it so much. So I keep all of my reading stuff in this journal. So I'm just gonna flip open so I can see the books that I've read, because I've read a lot, you guys. Okay, so the first book I read was called Vampire Hearts and Other Dead Things by is it Margie or Margie Houston? I don't know, I apologize. I'll put a picture on the screen. It was an audiobook that I listened to. This book was really good. I first picked it because it was a vampire book and I love vampire stuff. But when I got into it, it was more than that though. So it was about Victoria, our main character. She is 17 or 18. No, it must be 18. Yeah, 18 years old. And right at the very beginning, so I'm not giving anything away here, but her father finds out that he has cancer and he is dying. And Victoria and her father have a super close relationship, and they bond over their love of vampires. They're obsessed with vampires. They love them. Nobody else in her family, though, her mother or her sister, don't care for that at all, and just like roll their eyes at both of them. But her father and Victoria had like such a special bond, and they bonded a lot over vampire stuff. And 10 years prior to the time in the book, apparently vampires came out in the public and exposed themselves to the public and were like, hey, we're real, vampires are real. But then a string of people started going missing, so vampires went back into hiding, and that was like 10 years prior to the book starting. And then so people were kind of like, because that was like 10 years prior, people start to believe that like it was just a hoax and they weren't real. But Victoria did believe they were real. So she hatches this plan of finding a vampire to turn her into a vampire so that she could come home and then turn her father into a vampire to save his life, because she didn't want him to die. Now, this is definitely about a journey for Victoria. She ends up going to New Orleans because that's where her and her father had planned on taking a trip to after she had graduated from high school, but because he was sick, he never got to do that, but he still planned for her to go so that she could enjoy this trip that they were meant to go on together and create memories, and then come home with those memories and share them with him. And so she decides to bring her next door neighbor, Henry, I think his name is, who they had been best friends their entire lives, but had a falling out a year prior, so hadn't really been friends for a year, but deep down they both still cared for each other type of situation. And Henry goes to New Orleans with Victoria because A, he wants to protect her, B, he's in love with her, and C, he wants to be there for her when, like, because of what she's going through with her father. Now, Victoria is finding it very hard to accept that her father is dying, whereas she feels like her sister and her mother just don't care and have accepted that the father is dying. And this whole time she is in New Orleans, she meets somebody that she believes to be a vampire, and they tell her that, you know, you need to do all of these tasks before I say yes to giving you what you want, which is to become a vampire, right? So throughout this book, she tells all these tasks with either by herself or with Henry, and the point of the tasks weren't necessarily, you know, to just get like kicks out of, like the guy that she meets that she believes to be a vampire. It's not to get kicks out of it, but it's to make her see that life is worth living, because she's in such a dark spiral with her father dying. And you get to see her be able to enjoy things even though she's still grieving for the fact that she's going to lose her father. And it's honestly, it's a sad book. Like, it's a good book and there are definitely funny moments in it, but it is a sad book. And for me, it was sad because in 2018 I actually lost my grandfather to cancer. I've also lost my uncle many years prior to that to cancer. My mum has had cancer. My nan has had cancer. You know, it's just, cancer runs in my family. So this one for me was a little bit more of like emotional because of that. And I don't want to go into too much detail because I feel like this book is a really good book, and there's a lot of things that happen that I just don't want to give away because I feel like the experience of reading about it is worth it. But I just thoroughly enjoyed this book. There is a lot of emotional baggage in this. There is so much grief and pain and heartache in this, but there's also beauty in it as well, because Victoria learns that it's okay to still enjoy life and be happy even though her father does eventually die. So there was that. The next book I read is this one, which is Ice Planet Barbarians by Ruby Dixon. This blew up, this book. Even though this book has been out, not necessarily this copy of this book, but the original, which was, I believe, all published on Amazon, has been out for a number of years. But this book has become, like, this series has become so popular. And I saw a bunch of people on YouTube that I regularly watch start reading these and rave about how good they were. And I was like, this sounds like so up my alley, because I love a good alien or monster or vampire or some supernatural creature romance. I love it. And these are smutty romances as well. They're spicy. So if you don't like, you know, spicy sex scenes and all that sort of stuff, this is not for you guys. But I love it. I love the covers, and I'm definitely going to buy every single one that comes out in this cover. There is currently 4. They're going to be releasing the 5th one in, let me just check, I have it written down, February. I believe the 28th, the 5th book in this edition comes out, because at the moment the entire series is ebook, and they've only just started releasing them in physical paperbacks. So I knew I had to have these in paperback, even though I had never read them. I've never read Ruby Dixon, because I knew that this was going to be something I loved, and I did. I loved it. So our main character, Georgie, she is kidnapped by a bunch of ruthless aliens that are kidnapping women for trafficking. She gets dumped on a cargo ship because these aliens consider female humans as cargo to be sold and do whatever with. Now, I am going to say at the beginning of this book, I don't believe in trigger warnings, simply for the fact that literally anything could trigger someone. So take it with a grain of salt. But I will say trigger warning for, in case, you know, this is something that will trigger you. In the beginning of this book, Georgie does get kidnapped along with about 12 or 11 other women. And some of these women are tortured and raped quite brutally. It doesn't go into full detail, but a rape does happen at the beginning of this book between one of the kidnapped women and one of the aliens that kidnap her. So keep that in mind. So what happens is they're on this spaceship, they believe, for about 2 weeks, when the spaceship has some sort of malfunction and they crash land on this ice planet. And because these women are just cargo, The aliens actually detach the cargo hold from the ship and leave them on the ice planet because they're going to come back and collect the cargo when I guess their ship is fixed or they get a better ship or whatever. And Georgie has been elected by the group of women. There are 6 women that are awake, and then I believe 6 women that are in stasis pods. Georgie gets elected as kind of like their leader to go out of the cargo hold into the wild of this planet. They don't know where they are, to either find food and water or help of some kind. And that is when Georgie comes across Vectel. Vectel is our blue alien in this and our main character. And it sort of ensues from there. So Vectel and Georgie are trying to learn to communicate with one another because obviously Georgie speaks English, Vectel speaks his language. And it's a funny just like attempts at trying to converse with one another when you don't speak either one of each other's languages. And basically what happens is Vectel, the alien who lives on this planet, it is like an ice planet, and the only way that anything can live on this planet is to accept something called a kui, which is a symbiote that goes into your body that kind of alters your body a bit to be able to allow you to live in such a harsh environment. And if you don't have one of these kuis, you end up dying from the sickness within about 8 days. And so also this kui resonates in your body, so it has like a vibration to alert you to say that, hey, we've found your perfect mate. The whole point of finding a mate is to continue to like procreate and all that sort of stuff, to continue on like the genetic line, right? And Vectel, when he finds Georgie who gets caught in a trap, starts to resonate for this strange creature that he's never seen, so he becomes fiercely protective of her. He immediately loves her. So this is, if you're not like into like immediate love, this is not going to be for you either. But it's not like that weird insta-love crap. It's like he deeply feels love for her because of the kui inside him. And it's just like a whole bunch of like things that happen together that they're trying to like, he's trying to convince her to accept the kui, but they don't talk each other's languages. He's trying to care for her. She's trying to convince him that there are other women that they need to go save. And it's just a whole thing. And a lot of sex happens in this. So there's that. I'm not explaining it very well, but like, I can't say what I want to say without giving away too much. And I feel like you just need to read it. So I thoroughly enjoyed this book. It was perfect. I loved it. The next book I read was called Sunshine and Sweet Peas in Nightingale Square by Heidi Swain. This was a super cute romance. So our main character, Kate, she is currently in the process of getting divorced from her ex-husband, well, from her husband, because he is actually older than her, quite a bit older than her, and he cheats on her. And he cheats on her because she wanted a baby and he didn't. So he was like, nah, screw that, let's just go hook up with another chick. And obviously she finds out about it. So you start off the book right when they're talking to each other about her moving out of their house and moving away and finalizing their divorce. And she moves to Nightingale Square in Norwich. And she dreams about moving into this place because of its historical values, and she is an antiques dealer. And she moves into this place. She has a bunch of savings after selling their original house and like her business that she shared with her husband. So she has enough money in savings for about, I think it was a year. She didn't have to do any work or anything like that. And when she moves into this little square, it's very community orientated. All of the neighbors know one another. You know, it's kind of like one of those sort of found family type situations. And she moves into this old house that needs renovating and all that sort of stuff. And she sort of gets roped into trying to start this community garden in the square. But the community garden is technically, like, the plot that they want to use, which is in the main square in front of all of their houses, is technically owned by another house that's on the, I think it's called Prospect Place, on the square, but currently nobody owns the house. And then they find out that developers are trying to buy this house and they're going to gut it and ruin this beautiful historic house, and that means that they'll probably destroy their garden as well. So in the purpose of trying to get permission to be able to use this garden, she finds out that eventually that the developers are no longer purchasing Prospect Place and that someone else is. And the man that is actually an ex-model. And when she finds out that, I will say that there are parts of Kate's character that annoyed me, because when she found out that the guy that was going to be purchasing Prospect Place instead of the developers was an ex-model, she immediately changed her tune and was so judgmental. And she was all like, so you're a model? That's how you make your money? That's like, you know, like pathetic type. Like, she looked down on him because he was a model, and like he was stupid, and like, how dare he like work that way, and how dare he choose to do that with his life and body and whatnot. And that kind of really pissed me off a little bit, because I was just like, really? Really? You're gonna shame someone because they were a model? Who cares how people make their damn money? It's none of your damn business. So there were those little aspects of Kate's personality in this book that I did not appreciate. She was quite judgy. But when she wasn't being judgy, I did like her character. And essentially, her and this guy, I can't think of his name right now off the top of my head, I'm terrible with names. They kind of start like an on again, off again thing with each other, and they have little tiffs, and it's like misunderstandings and all that sort of stuff. And it's all about like sort of like them kind of finding love together, but like, I'm not going to say what happens because I did not see this coming, so I don't want to spoil it for anyone else, but a very big thing happens that makes Kate think, hold on a second, we just spent like amazing time together and then this is happening. I don't think that I can be with you anymore. And it's about like them working out and working through this big situation that happens. I know I'm not giving much away, but I really can't, because it'll destroy the story, because it was quite a big thing that happens that like I didn't personally see coming, so I don't want to ruin that for anyone else. But I enjoyed it so much. I love all of like the neighbors in the community. It was just really friendly and welcoming and just heartwarming, and I just really enjoyed it. I thought it was such a great romance book. I loved it. The next book I read was Poppy's Recipe for Life, which is actually the second book in that series, which is I think it's called the Nightingale Square series. This one was great. So it is a series, but each book focuses on a different person, like a different couple. Sorry about that, guys. My camera ran out of space. So, back to what I was saying. I don't know exactly where I left off, but I'm positive I was talking about Poppy's Recipe for Life by Heidi Swain, which was the second book in the Nightingale Square series. So, Poppy, our main character, she, I believe, is in her late 20s, and she works for a greengrocers, and she lives in the unit above. And she has been dreaming about moving into Nightingale Square because she wanted the community feel of the square, but also the community garden, because Poppy likes to cook. And when she moves into the square and she's renting Kate from the first book's house, because Kate now lives in Prospect Place with the model guy, she finds out from her mum. Her mum calls her out of the blue, and she doesn't have a very good relationship with her mum because her mum is one of those people that should have never had children because she's selfish and a narcissist and just a terrible person. But she finds out from her mum that her younger brother, who is only, I think, 16, is having some issues at his school, and she needs Poppy to go to school to attend these meetings because the mother is going out of the country and she just doesn't care about basically the son. And Poppy thought that if she ignored her mother, that her mother would be forced to stay home and actually be a mother and look after her brother. But that did not happen. Her mother left to Spain anyway and just left her kid by himself at home. So Poppy ends up actually moving her brother into her home with her, and they do have some struggles along the way because Poppy's brother does have a little bit of resentment towards Poppy because he's only like 16, she's in her late 20s, so she was out of the house for quite some time, so she didn't really have to deal with all the things that the mother had been putting him through for the last several years. And then his father passes away, so he didn't even have his father's house to go to anymore to escape the mother because his father had passed away. And he kind of resented Poppy for that a little bit and thought that Poppy had abandoned him. And then also at the same time, like this happens, Poppy is literally moving into like the square when all of this goes down. She also meets her next door neighbor, who happens to be super, super grumpy and rude and just not a nice person to be around. And you can tell by the way he acts that he's obviously going through some things as well. And Poppy and also the other neighbors are trying really, really hard to be inclusive of this grumpy guy. I'm trying to think of what his name was. Let me see. I have written something down in my journal. I just can't remember if I wrote his name down. No, I can't remember his name. But anyway. And so throughout this, Poppy is trying really hard to kind of almost like be a parent to her brother, but put in like boundaries and rules in place and try to get him to realize that he's not worthless like their mother kept telling him, and that he is loved and wanted and all that sort of stuff. But I'm sure you can imagine at the age of 16, he's going through some things. And she, at the same time, is also trying really hard to get her next door neighbor to involve himself in the community and the community garden and all of that sort of stuff. And I'm not going to go into too much with this one because a lot happens in this that I think is like integral to the story that I don't really want to give away. But basically, I'll give you a rough, recount. But basically, Poppy and her brother's relationship starts to grow a little bit and starts to sort of blossom into a better relationship. There are a lot of bumps along the way. Things do happen that sort of set him off a little bit. Excuse that noise if you can hear that. That is literally my landlord outside leaf blowing. He's here nearly every day. It's so frustrating. And then also her relationship with her next door neighbor starts to blossom a little bit as well. he starts to be not so grumpy, and she starts to find out why he is the way he is. And he also had gone through some pretty bad stuff, not abuse wise, like a parental abuse, but he had gone through quite a severe breakup, and some things happened involving his girlfriend or fiance or whatever she was, and his twin brother. And so there is a lot of like character development in this, which I really enjoy. But one thing I think I really enjoy the most about this particular series, like the Nightingale Square series, is the community feel as well in this, because you're not just getting the main characters, but you have the community there as well that you learn a lot about, and I love it. It was really great romance. I really enjoyed it. I actually enjoyed it a little bit more than the first one, because I thought that Kate from the first one was kind of a rude bitch. Not the entire time, but she was. So there's that. So that was that book that I read. And I'll just like quickly show you. I have been in this year's reading journal. I'm actually writing like my thoughts about these books in here, which I've never done before. I normally just put like the title, the author, if it's a series, and how many pages, and then like, you know, my rating, and that's what I normally do. But I've changed it up this year because I've been watching a lot of people on YouTube do like creative book journaling, so I started doing that because I love the idea of it. So I'm just going to quickly show you. It's nothing fancy, but this is the first book I read. Then you've got this one here. Then you've got these two here that I've read. And then this is the last two entries I've done. I've got to do another entry for the last book that I've read. But let's get on to the next book. So the next book I finished was The Cherry Tree Cafe by Heidi Swain. This one I actually really enjoyed. Our main character, Lizzie Dixon, she is currently, like at the beginning of the book, currently like lives in London with her boyfriend, Giles. And Giles is like a very wealthy sort of, comes from like a wealthy, important family. And he basically comes to her hometown where she was working as, I think, a waitress in a bar or something like that, and he kind of sweeps her off her feet and then moves her to London, and they live together in like an expensive penthouse. And you know, he gets her this job in, I think, advertising or something like that, and he like buys her all these expensive gifts and things like that, and she's just like really in love with this guy. And it is her birthday, and she wakes up, and she was expecting to wake up next to Giles, but Giles wasn't there, and she realizes that he's left her a note saying that today for like his birthday, like her birthday, he's got to work, but he's booked her an entire day at the spa to pamper her, right? So she goes to the spa, even though it's not really her thing, but he obviously wanted to treat her, so she was like, I'm going to do it because he's doing this for me for my birthday. So she spends the entire day at the spa, and then she goes from the spa to dinner at this really expensive fancy restaurant, and when she gets there, Giles is not there yet, and then he turns up and he's like, oh, you know, I'm sorry, I was late, blah blah blah. And then like they have like dinner and stuff, but she realizes he's acting kind of weird and like taking phone calls and keeps stepping out, and he's not really paying attention to her, and she thought that he was going to propose to her on her birthday. But what actually happens is while she was at the day spa for the entire day, he moved all his stuff out, and then at the dinner proceeds to tell her that he's leaving her to go back to his ex that he had been cheating on her with for several months. And it goes from there. So she decides to move back to her hometown, that instead of moving back with her parents because her mom's a bit of a narcissist, she moves in with her best friend Gemma. And Gemma and her husband have bought the Cherry Tree Cafe, and they're in the process of renovating it. And then there is like a little flat above the cafe that they're also renovating that Gemma has given to Lizzie to stay in. And when Lizzie arrives at Gemma's house, she realizes that there is a guy named Ben who she went to school with, who she had a severe crush on the entire high school, that's also staying at Gemma's house. And he's kind of a little bit grumpy, and like Gemma and her husband and also Ben seem to be keeping like lots of secrets from Lizzie. And you know, Lizzie's just kind of like a little bit like what's going on type of situation. But she wants to move on with her life, and she decides that she's going to go back to doing what she loved doing, because Giles had tried to change her into something that she wasn't. He didn't want her to be like the redhead with curly hair. He made her straighten her hair, and he didn't like her freckles, so he bought her expensive foundations to cover her freckles. And he was trying to change her into something she wasn't. And before she had ever met Giles, she had actually gone to school for like sewing and like knitting and crafting and all that sort of stuff, and business schools and all that sort of jazz. So she decides that she wants to do that again, and that was something that she had really loved in her life, and she was going to make something out of that and work for her. And so they create like this crafting cafe, her and Gemma. So Gemma does all the baking and runs the cafe, and then Lizzie does like crafting, like not tutorials, but like, what do you call it, teaching sessions and all that sort of stuff. And I really enjoyed the crafting aspect of it, because I do craft myself. I do sew, I knit, I crochet, I do all of those things. And I love the like the little cafe and like how it was described, and it was just sort of like very sort of like cozy and like crafty feeling, and just like farmhouse type of aesthetic and all of that. And I really love that, and I love that Lizzie kind of found herself along the way in this book. But there were a lot of times throughout the book where I just wanted to be like, oh my god, Lizzie, I just want to slap you stupid, because you cannot be this dumb. Because she kept thinking, oh, but like, what if I just, you know, go back to Giles and convince him that like, you know, we could be good together and blah blah. And she was just like, she just obviously had no self-worth. And I just wanted to just shake her stupid and be like, oh my god, wake the fuck up. Because like, she was just so stupid. And she just kept wanting to go back to this douchebag that very clearly from the beginning treated her terribly. Thank God she does wake up to herself, but she also, in this process, befriends this other guy that her best friend's husband kind of semi-knows, who is very clearly from the start one of those guys that are just total dicks. And he was a gold digger. Let's be real here. He was a gold digger. He was just after money wherever he could get it, but he was very like smooth and charming and just like a total snake. You could just tell from the beginning. And she was, again, stupid enough to fall for it. I was just like, oh my god, girl, wake up. But I really, really enjoyed it. There were things that happened in this book that I'm not going to say because I did not see it coming, and I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but I really, really enjoyed that. So that was fantastic. The next one I read was The Blossom Tree of Dreams by Holly Martin. This is the first book in the Wishing Wood series, I believe it's called. Oh my god, loved this book. I really enjoy Holly Martin's writing style. I love these really cozy kind of like Hallmarky type romances. I love them. This particular one is, our main character is Indigo Bloom, and Indigo is going through some hard times. 2 years prior to the book starting, she was in a very severe car accident and she suffered some very, very serious injuries, which resulted in her losing her baby that she was pregnant with at the time. It also resulted in her one of her eyes, losing the color out of her eye. All the pigmentation just slowly disappeared. She could still see fine, but she just didn't have any pigmentation in one eye. And so her fiance or boyfriend or whatever he was at the time left her because she lost the baby. And it was his fault, I believe, that the accident happened because I think he was drunk and crashed the car. And then she, at the time, was working in a hotel who got bought out, and the person that was running the hotel that bought it out was a total sexist piece of shit because he essentially said that she wasn't beautiful enough to be at like working at their hotel because of her eye and everything, and that she basically looked like a freak. But he would overlook it and keep her employed if she just had sex with him. So his, like, just a sexual pervert basically, and should be in jail, frankly. And she basically told him where to go shove it, so he fires her and makes up a story about her stealing from the hotel when that wasn't the case. So fast forward, I think it's like 6 months or something like that. She's living with her sister. She's broke. She has no money. She doesn't have a job. She doesn't have a house. And then she finds out she's pregnant because she had met this guy named River at a bar, and she was dressed like a cat in a cat costume, and she had cat makeup on, and she had green contact lenses in. And they have like a magical night together, and they sleep together, and she panics because of the trauma that she's faced and how unwanted she feels because of these terrible men that have been in her life that have mistreated her. She runs away, even though she thinks that this guy is wonderful and there could be some sort of connection. And then 2 months later, she finds out she is pregnant. So she decides to go to his work, and his work is called, like I said, I think it's something like Wishing Wood Resorts or something like that. And what it is this is all based in England, and it's a beautiful nature type resort where all of the cabins are actually tree houses. And oh my god, when I knew that, I was like, yes, I am so in for this. I would seriously live in a tree house. Have you guys seen the TV show Treehouse Masters? Love it. So when she gets there though, he doesn't recognize her because his drink got spiked by his friends. Like, he doesn't drink, and his friends thought it would be funny to spike his drink, so he got extremely drunk. And he does remember the night and the woman, but she was dressed as a cat, and he misheard her when she said her name. So her name is Indigo, but she introduced herself as Indy, and he thought her name was Mindy. And also, when she turns up at the Wishing Wood Resort, she has dyed her hair purple. Obviously, he's not wearing a cat costume, and one of her eyes doesn't have any color. So he, like, River kind of, like, when he sees her, was like she's so familiar. I know this woman, but then also, and he's like, I think it's Mindy, but also it's not Mindy because her name's Indigo, so that can't be right. But like, he just had this feeling like he knew her. And so at the beginning, it's kind of like both of them, like he offers her a job, so she's living at this place now in a tree house, and she finds out that he has a daughter as well. And there's a few little misunderstandings in the beginning between the two. She thinks he's married, but it's not. It's actually his sister-in-law that she sees. He does have a little girl. He is a single father, you know, all that sort of stuff. And she doesn't tell him right away who she is or that she's pregnant because she is scared. And I totally understand it. Both of them had gone through some pretty terrible things. Both of them have, including River. Like, River's childhood was fucked up. So fucked up. And the mother of his child was a total bitch. Like, total bitch. And so they have, like, a lot of personal growth to do. And you do see the personal growth happening throughout this book, where they're learning to love themselves and see their own self-worth. And both of them kind of, I guess, bring it out in each other and have taught, like, they're showing each other that they can love themselves and that they are important and loved and wanted. And yeah, it was really cute. I really loved it. Obviously, these books always end in happy endings because they're romances, but I really enjoyed it, and I loved all of the talk in this book about the tree houses. River and his three brothers, Bear and Heath, like, I'm sorry, two brothers. So River, Heath, and Bear owned, like, the resort together, and they all Heath and River build all of the tree houses, and then River is like a tech genius who does all of the lighting and the electrical and, like, their online presence and all of that sort of stuff. And I just loved hearing about all of the treehouse stuff. And there's, like, a 3-story treehouse with, like, a nursery for a baby and, like, kids rooms and slides and, like, all sorts of beautiful, like, kitchens. And it was just like, oh, it was so up my alley. I loved it. Seriously, if this existed, I'd live in a damn treehouse. I would. But yeah, so really, really loved it. And then the last book I have read, which I actually started and finished yesterday on my birthday, was Highland Fling by Megan. Damn it, what's the name? Hang on, let me see. Totally blanking on the name. Megan Quinn. Now, I listened to that one on audio, and it is about two female main characters. I'm totally blanking on their names now. I cannot remember their names for the life of me. I'm sorry. My memory loss is really bad with names, so I do apologize. And if you are new to my channel, I do suffer from memory loss. Names just completely drop out of my head. I have to, like, for me to retain a name, I actually have to use that person's name, like, almost in every sentence while I'm talking to them to make my brain remember. It's really hard for me to remember names, so I do apologize. But we have two female main characters. Our very main character is 24-year-old. She's from America, and then her best friend is about the same age, I believe, also from America. Our main character is straight. Our other the other female character is lesbian, and both of them are going through kind of a tough time in their life, their love lives, just with everything in America. And so they apply to this ad that says about going to Scotland in the Highlands to run a cafe for 6 months, and all accommodations and everything and expenses will be covered. And they apply for it. They didn't think they would get it, and they actually do. So they go to Scotland, to Corsicelli, and they get there, and they're like, oh my god, what have we done? Like, this house doesn't have, like, it has running water and plumbing, but the plumbing doesn't work properly. And then the little cafe is just like, it needs help. It only serves 2 types of coffee and nothing else. The, like, interior design, there was none, like, and nobody comes into this cafe. And the owner of the cafe is going on holiday for 6 months, and she says to the 2 girls, like, you know, if you need anything, my son will help you out. And then so the straight main character meets this grumpy Scottish man who turns out to be the owner's son, Rowan. And the main character, she is very, like, pushy and just, like, you know, doesn't really see people's boundaries. Like, she knows their boundaries, but she's like, boundaries don't exist type of situation, and just goes ahead and goes way past those boundaries. I actually really enjoyed the book. Like, the book is set in the Scottish Highlands, so you learn about the hairy coo, which is the cattle. You learn about Fergus the goat, the beautiful like Scottish Highlands surroundings, and like the people in the little village and everything like that. And the two girls are really, really there to find themselves and find purpose in their lives. Uh, and I do apologize for forgetting their names, but like, just so you know who I'm talking about, the other one, the friend, who is a lesbian, is there because she went through an extremely traumatic breakup with her girlfriend, who was actually her very first girlfriend, and the girl who helped her realize that she was lesbian, and that's why she's in Scotland, to try and get over that. And then she meets another girl in Scotland who is literally the only lesbian in this little town. So she's going through her own things and then also falling in love with this one. And then our other girl, who is straight, is like, it's kind of like one of those hate to love type situations, because like the Scottish guy, Rowan, is super like just grumpy, but he has reasons for why he is grumpy, but obviously she doesn't know that. And she's just constantly pushing his boundaries and just being irritating and annoying, and like, you know, and eventually they start to kind of like hate each other less and start to fall for one another. And it's super cute, and both of them clearly have issues. Well, all three have clear issues, and you do see a lot of growth in like the like three characters. But one thing I will say though that annoyed the shit out of me though was our female main character, that the one that's straight, because she was so immature for a 24-year-old. I don't ever remember acting so stupid and just inconsiderate of people and their feelings and their boundaries like she was. She just had no filter, no, like, she just didn't care type of situation. So that did annoy me a little bit, but I did enjoy like their progression into learning that, hey, maybe I might be being a shitty person and I'm not taking other people into consideration. And Rowan learns that, you know, you can still live a beautiful life but still miss someone so dearly that you've lost in your life. You can continue living. You don't have to shut yourself off from the world forever. And the other one learns that being a lesbian doesn't mean you have to define your entire life by being a lesbian. Like, you don't have to be going to all these gay marches just to prove you're a lesbian. You don't have to have your entire social media account like constantly going on about, like, you know, gay rights and things like that to be a lesbian. Being a lesbian doesn't mean that. Being a lesbian just means that you're attracted to other women, and that is not the sole thing that makes you who you are. There are many things that make you the person that you are. Being a lesbian is just one of those things, and being a lesbian looks different to every single lesbian, and that's what she learns, which I think was really good, because she was also kind of rude and bitchy. Like, she got so mad about like her friends not, like, you know, being more compassionate about her needs and her feelings, but then camera cut out. But yeah, so her friend wouldn't ever know about any of her feelings, so they kind of come head to head with like that whole situation. But they do grow, and there is a lot of growth towards the end of the book mostly. It does all sort of come together towards the end. I really, really enjoyed it. It is a standalone book, so I'm kind of sad to not be able to continue the story. Hopefully maybe the author might turn it into a series. I don't know. I really hope she does, because there are other characters that were in this like in this little village, that I would love to read about. So you know, I would love to have this story continue on. Not even, doesn't even have to be with the same, like the same main two characters from the first book, but some of the other characters in the village would be really great. But that is what I have been up to book-wise. When I edit this, I will make sure I put pictures up of all the books if I don't have a physical copy, so that you guys can see what I am talking about. But that is everything, you guys. It is 2:30 and my fiance will be home any minute. And we're actually going out any minute. So I will catch you guys later and update you on what I've been up to. So yeah, so anyway guys, I will chat to you later. Bye.